Did Chris Greer and the Miami Dolphins absolutely put on a masterclass in undrafted free agency? They signed 16 players that competed over the weekend at rookie minicamp to make first impressions on this coaching staff and organization. Well, some NFL analysts believe that the Dolphins UDFA class is actually the best in the AFC. They also got good praise for the entire NFL. This is coming from Thor Nystrom, who does rankings of UDFA classes every single year. And he ranked Miami's UDFA class as the best in the AFC conference, so one of 16. And it would have came in fifth overall, just having teams like Minnesota, Atlanta, just to name a couple from the NFC slightly ahead of the Dolphins. But I've been very bullish of this UDFA class, and I wanted to go through the players that he highlighted and who I believe could really make a push for a roster spot this upcoming summer. But do you love the Dolphins UDFA class like Nystrom and yours truly? If you do, show them love by hitting that like button. Let's get those UDFAs some love. All right, as we look at the class now, it was announced on Friday that they signed 16 UDFAs officially, with some jersey numbers out there as well. You'll see the full list. There was one change. Instead of C.I. Oladipo, the safety from Boise State, he was actually not signed. He was a rookie minicamp invite. Instead, Travion Rebecca, the defensive lineman from Kentucky, was the player that was the 16th UDFA. But you see the jersey numbers there, and I'll tell you right now, stock up. Andrew Armstrong, the wide receiver from Arkansas. I know I like to joke and make a jersey thing. As the rookie jersey class came out, obviously, last week as well. But Andrew Armstrong, my favorite UDFA, rocking number 19. Does that not just feel like a number where he's going to make it his own and be good in a Dolphins uniform? One could only hope. But on the real, let's actually talk about Andrew Armstrong once again, because Nystrom noted that Armstrong and the Missouri wide receiver that the Dolphins signed, Theo Wease Jr., are potential difference makers on this Dolphins roster. Both played in the SEC last year. Wease was actually a 5-year collegiate player, started his career at Oklahoma before finishing up at Missouri. Armstrong played at the FCS level before transferring to Arkansas, where he had an unbelievable productive final season, where he was the leading receiver in the entire SEC. Yeah, he led the conference in receiving yards with 1140, averaged over 100 yards per game. Both averaged about 14.6 yards per catch. Not the biggest touchdown guys, but possession body wide receivers that thrived over the middle of the field. And you see that in terms of their size profiles, right? These guys aren't crazy burners. These guys aren't going to beat you deep, but they're physical wide receivers that make catches in great contested catch opportunities over the middle of the field. I mean, Andrew Armstrong had a 60% contested catch rate last season. 6'3", 4'5", 140. Theo Wease just shorter than Armstrong, 6'3" himself, 200, 4'5", 940. It's not like they're the most explosive athletes, but they got a great catch radius. They're big, and they're excellent possession guys over the middle of the field. And Nystrom actually provided some player comps for some of the top UDFAs that the Dolphins signed, which I thought was fascinating. And Armstrong and Wease got some pretty solid wide receivers, Josh Reynolds and Xavier Hutchinson, respectively. Reynolds is a good, productive player in his career for the Rams, for the Lions. If Armstrong actually became Josh Reynolds, that would be a home run, because I would argue at Reynolds' peak, that is a wide receiver 3, and if you get that in an undrafted free agency, yeah, that would be pretty solid for Armstrong. But Xavier Hutchinson's an intriguing one for Wease Jr., in my opinion, because Hutchinson, a 2023 sixth-round pick, has gotten some good play in the preseason and on special teams for the Houston Texans. Now, these player comps aren't guaranteed to happen. It's just one person's opinion. But I do like the idea of the Dolphins getting great value with these two wide receivers. And it is going to be hard-pressed for each of them to make the 53-man roster. But both of them have a really good shot to make this roster in late August. I've labeled Armstrong as potentially the most likely UDFA to make this team because I like his production. I like his size to speed ratio. We did a whole video about our Andrew Armstrong just personally last weekend. If you didn't see it, go watch it. That's why you got to be subscribed as well. But with this wide receiver group on this depth chart being relatively thin after its top 4 guys, and they likely are going to keep 5, it could be Wease Jr. versus Armstrong for that final 53-man roster spot when it comes to the wide receiver depth chart. So let me know. Pick a player for me. Which wide receiver is more likely to make the Dolphins roster? Andrew Armstrong, type AA. If it's Theo Wease Jr., type TW. Get down in the comment section and let me know your thoughts down below. Maybe there is a UDFA that we should be talking about more. That being Jalin Conyers, the tight end from Texas Tech, because Nystrom actually believes that he could be the best UDFA Miami signed and the most likely player that the Fins actually signed in undrafted free agency. And it makes a lot of sense, right? You look at that tight end depth chart, there isn't much behind Jonnu Smith when really talking about what is on Miami's roster. There isn't. You have Jonnu Smith, and then it gets to Pharaoh Brown and Julian Hill. Can't believe I spaced on that name. Like, there isn't a lot there. And I think it's fascinating to talk about the potential possibility where Conyers doesn't even just make the team, but actually is maybe tight end 2. And that's a real possibility here. Last year, I liked Hayden Rucci, the UDFA tight end from Wisconsin. He spent a lot of time on the practice squad. Thor Nystrom on Conyers, saying that he believes that the tight end will see some field time as a rookie. The Dolphins were weak on tight end depth behind Jonnu Smith, and Conyers, who has long arms and deceivingly large catch radius, has interesting developmental traits. And he does, in fact, have very interesting developmental traits. He is an athletic guy. He was really good after the catch at Texas Tech, and he actually had some wildcat experience as well. I think I saw the numbers. He's 5-6 throwing with a touchdown. So he has versatility. He has good speed. He has a good catch radius, and he is good after the catch, which is something Jonnu Smith could really help teach him, if you will. Conyers has a really good chance to make this Dolphins 53-man roster, and I'm excited to see how he performs in minicamp as well as the preseason. And make sure you are subscribed because we will be here all offseason long. And when the preseason rolls around, we'll be live for those 3 preseason games, live for the regular season as well. Daily coverage on the Miami Dolphins. Subscribe today. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a beat of our content. Conyers was relatively productive last season for Texas Tech. I'm not going to say he was some unbelievable tight end, but you really don't see tight ends have big-time statistical seasons at the college level. You look at the ones that are like outliers. You're talking about Colson Loveland. You're talking about Tyler Ward. You're talking about Harold Fannin Jr. That's why they were top day 2 picks, first round and third round picks, respectively. But Conyers putting up 5 tuds, 320 for the Red Raiders. I think that's pretty impressive. And the interesting part about his comparison from Thor Nystrom is that he got compared to Ian Thomas, the Carolina Panthers tight end, who's got a lot of size to him. He's been a good blocker. And I'll also throw this out there for Ian Thomas. He has been in the league for 2-3 seasons on the 53-man roster for Carolina. If you get that from a UDFA tight end in Conyers for Miami, that is going to make a lot of people happy, and it just shows you how valued he actually is to Mike McDaniel and this coaching staff. Let's move over to a defensive player in UDFA because I don't think we have talked a lot about and enough about Eugene Asante, the linebacker from Auburn. Nystrom sung a lot of high praise for this linebacker. Started his career at North Carolina, played 3 years, then went to Auburn for 3 years. A lot of production, a lot of experience, an older guy, but he could be vying for a roster spot and a role right away. We'll talk more about that in a second. But make sure you get your Dolphins jerseys today. Chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey is the link. It is going to be in the description and comments of today's video. Get rookie Kenneth Grant. He's officially wearing number 90. We'll see if that sticks. You have Tyreek Hill jerseys, Tua Tagovailoa jerseys, Jalen Phillips, Jalen Waddle, whole 9 yards. Every player you can think of, every style, every color, every size. Get yours today. One more time, chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. Links in the description and comments of today's video. When Nystrom spoke on Eugene Asante, labeled him as a jitterbug of a linebacker, a strong special teamer who had an eye-popping 727 special team snaps in college. He'll flesh out the linebacker depth while assuming a core special teamer role out of the gate. And Nystrom isn't the only person that is high on Asante. I am as well. I gave this a B+ UDFA signing when I did my UDFA grades video, which ranked in the top 6 of the UDFAs the Dolphins ultimately signed. And you mentioned the jitterbug aspect of Asante, the athleticism. That really sticks out. Yeah, he's a 6-year player, he's an older prospect, but he ran a 4.48 40-yard dash. That is very impressive for a linebacker. That gives him the ability to be a great special teamer because obviously running down the field, speed is very important, massive. And when you watch his production, you watch his tape, you could see that on the tape. And I think the biggest thing you could do as a UDFA to ensure a roster spot is be an elite special teamer. And the fact that he has so much experience doing it at the collegiate level will just give him a one leg up on rookies and other UDFAs vying for a 53-man roster spot. I think he is a very strong candidate to replace Channing Tindall on the 53-man roster. You have Willie Gay, KJ Britt, Tyrell Dodson, and Jordan Brooks as your 4 linebackers. I think Asante could be that 5th linebacker behind the 4 of them, as well as a top special team guy for the Miami Dolphins. Let me know, which Dolphins UDFA has the best chance to make the roster? I think there's a lot of players you could throw out there. I think Armstrong's got a good chance. I think John Sanders Jr. I think you could talk about Asante. You could talk about Conyers. You could talk about BJ Adams. There's a lot of people you can name, so let me know your thoughts down below. And let's round out the show with talking about BJ Adams, the corner from Central Florida, because he was a player Miami looked at early in the process, right? BJ Adams had a top 30 visit with the Miami Dolphins in the pre-draft process. Didn't get drafted and ultimately signed very quickly with the Fins in undrafted free agency. And the reason why I think it's important to keep an eye on any DB that the Dolphins sign in undrafted free agency is because the Dolphins have had such a good history over the last 5 years in undrafted free agency with defensive backs. They've had 3 contributors. In 2019, Nic Needham played multiple seasons on the Fins 53-man roster, hybrid, nickel, corner, safety type of guy, and he was finally left off the roster this past season, but he was productive as heck. Kader Kohu, a massive success story, still on the Dolphins roster, one of the most important players on this Dolphins secondary still to this day. And last year, Storm Duck, UDFA, played 400-plus snaps. Like, he had a large role for the Fins in the last 3 games of the season and is projected to have a chance to have a real roster spot again this season. So anytime the Dolphins add multiple DBs or a top DB in undrafted free agency, my alarm bells go off because I know that there is a lot of history with Miami, Chris Grier, Mike McDaniel identifying these type of guys. And when you talk specifically on BJ Adams, this quick Spark Notes scouting report for him. He is a physical man coverage corner. And the Dolphins do run a lot more zone than man, but that is just more any type of defense nowadays. But the Dolphins do run a lot of man in zone, or zone and man combinations. And Adams, he's long, he's athletic. Like, I have high hopes. I think that he can really vie for a roster spot. Ethan Bonner was on the 53-man roster this past year. We'll see what Miami does in free agency going forward at the cornerback position. But I could absolutely see BJ Adams taking Ethan Bonner's spot that he held last season. And the comp for BJ Adams, Blesson Austin, who was around the league for a very long time. I'll say this, folks. Call me crazy. The Dolphins signed 16 UDFAs. Maybe I'm drinking the juice. I really like the signings that Miami made. I think Armstrong, the wide receiver from Arkansas, can make the team. I think BJ Adams can make the team, the corner from Central Florida. Jalin Conyers, the tight end from Texas Tech, I'm high on. Eugene Asante, the linebacker, who has special teams value as well as good speed to be a potential 5th linebacker on this roster. And we didn't even mention John Sanders Jr., the safety from Ole Miss that I'm very high on, that had 47 tackles last season and forced 7 turnovers. I think Miami could see 4 or 5 UDFAs make this roster when we have it all said and done in late August, just depending on who. There is a lot of opportunities for young players to make this team, and this class has a lot of potential for this Dolphins football team. And that'll do it for this episode of Dolphins Today. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel for daily content. We'll have you covered all offseason long, and as rookie minicamp happens, OTAs, and the training camp portion of the offseason gets underway, we'll have you covered. So subscribe today.